Here are the top stories for today, October 29, 2020. President Duterte gave a go signal to investigate allegations against Philippine ambassador to Brazil, Marichu Mauro. Returning OFWs are assured of getting tested in the country. The Justice Department prioritizes 5 agencies on corruption probe. And MINDA Tienda will hold a 2-day event in Baguio City. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte gives his go signal to investigate Philippine ambassador to Brazil, Marichu Mauro. Mauro is accused of maltreating her Filipina household help. The Department of Foreign Affairs earlier ordered the immediate recall of the ambassador.
Pinayagan na po ng Presidente ang Department of Foreign Affairs na imbestigahan ang dating Philippine ambassador to Brazil na si Marichu Mauro. Bilang isang presidential appointee, kinakailangan po ang pagpayag ng Presidente bago maimbestigahan ang dating Philippine ambassador to Brazil, Marichu Mauro.
Returning overseas Filipinos need not worry anymore that they cannot be tested for COVID-19 upon their arrival at the airport. Many returning OFWs get stranded when Philippine Red Cross stopped conducting COVID-19 testing because of issues of payment with PhilHealth. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque today announced that some groups and laboratories are stepping in.
Habang hindi pa po nare-resolba ng tuluyan ang kontrobersiya sa panig ng PhilHealth at ng Philippine Red Cross, nagpadala po ng abiso ang Project ARC sa pamamagitan ng kanyang medical director, si Dr. Mingita Padilla, na handa raw po sila na isubject sa PCR testing ang mga bumabalik na OFWs at mga overseas Filipinos natin sa kanilang 11 laboratories with a testing capacity of 3,000 laboratories per day. Sang-ayon po dito, ang sabi po ni Dr. Mingita Padilla, i-devote po nila ang kanilang laboratory sa Philippine Children's Medical Center, sa Jose Rodriguez Memorial Hospital sa Caloocan at JB Lingad Memorial Hospital sa Pampanga para i-test po ng PCR test ang mga bumabalik na OFWs at OFs natin. Similarly po, nagpadala rin po ng abiso ang Philippine Airport Diagnostic Laboratory through Dr. Jaime. Ito po ay isa sa 2 pribadong laboratories na nag-ooperate sa NEA na handa rin po silang magbigay ng PCR test sa mga bumabalik ng OFWs natin sa kaparehong halaga na sinisingil po ng Philippine Red Cross.
4 more jeepney routes are set to open tomorrow. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, said only roadworthy public utility vehicles are allowed to resume their operations. The routes include Parang Recto, Parang Stop and Shop via Aurora Boulevard, SSS Village via Aurora Boulevard, and España Boulevard and Libertad Pinagbarilan routes. According to the LTFRB, all passenger units should have a valid and existing Certificate of Public Convenience application for extension of validity and personal passenger insurance policy. Instead of a special permit, a QR code will be issued to operators to be printed and posted on their units. Operators, drivers, and passengers are reminded to follow the 7 commandments on public transportation. The task force mandated to investigate corruption in the entire government may initially focus on 5 agencies that are prone to corruption. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara identified the 5 as PhilHealth, Bureau of Customs, DPWH, BIR, and the Land Registration Authority. Guevara said the core group that investigated PhilHealth will be the same core group in the probe of the entire government for corruption. It was President Rodrigo Duterte who directed the Department of Justice to investigate corruption in the entire government. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives vowed to fast-track the passage of various measures to combat corruption in the government. The Philippine Red Cross has resumed its coronavirus swab tests after it received partial payment from the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, or PhilHealth. PRC Chairman Senator Richard Gordon made this announcement in an online media briefing. On Tuesday, PhilHealth released some 500 million pesos as partial payment. Gordon clarified that the total debt of PhilHealth to PRC has already reached 1.1 billion pesos.
I have requested the Secretary General and all our laboratories throughout the entire country to open it to PhilHealth again. But we're going to ask them to pay right away. And then lahat ng mga bagong tests, within 3 days, they get the billing and they pay right away. Hindi na ako mapapayag na lalaki ng ganyan. Natakot ako talaga eh. Imagine, ang laki-laki ng amount. Pagka hindi nabayaran niya, hindi babagsak kami.
Instead of manually filling up contact tracing forms, air passengers will soon be required to use the contact tracing mobile application to enter any airport in the country. This is called the Trace Contact Tracing Application, co-developed by the Philippine Ports Authority and Cosmotech Philippines. The mobile app uses QR code technology to locate a person at a given time and date. The use of the app is currently optional, but CAAP Chief of Staff Attorney Danjun Lucas said it will be made mandatory after the 30-day transition period. Trace has been in the use in PPA ports for more than a month and now has 40,000 users. It was simultaneously pilot tested at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport, Clark International Airport, Mactan Cebu International Airport, and Davao International Airport. The DOTR said the app will also soon be pilot tested in the country's other airports. The Philippines will increase the number of participants in the World Health Organization or WHO Solidarity Trial on potential COVID-19 vaccines. The Health Department said the trial will start locally in December. Trial volunteers must be 18 to 60 years of age and without comorbidities. Pregnant women would not be considered.
Yes po, nandun po tayo dun sa direksyon na we will be increasing our number of participants to 4,000. Atin lang pong ginagawa ng final arrangements with WHO.
Meanwhile, talks are still ongoing as for US Pfizer and Moderna.
We are still trying to negotiate and we're still trying to discuss with them. So wala pa hong kasiguruhan, wala pa rin ho tayong confirmed details regarding this matter.
Still to come, floating employees are allowed to find alternative work. Taxes from online betting is being eyed. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. United Nations in the Philippines has mobilized around 1.4 billion pesos in aid for COVID-19 response. 150 COVID-19 rapid response activities are being implemented by 20 UN partner agencies throughout the country. UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in the Philippines, Gustavo Gonzalez, said the UN has moved swiftly to support the government-led effort to contain COVID-19. According to UN Philippines, its 1.4 billion pesos rapid COVID-19 investment consists of in-kind support as well as technical assistance. 60% of the activities are being implemented nationwide, while 20% are focused on the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, followed by the National Capital Region and other regions. Acting Socio-Economic Planning Secretary of the National Economic and Development Authority, Carl Kendrick Chua, said the Philippines acknowledges the UN's immediate support. With the help of organizations like the UN, Chua said the country would be more resilient in facing future crises. Filipinos are encouraged to continue donating blood, especially for patients with other complications who badly need it amid the COVID-19 pandemic. This after Dr. Bernard Julius Rocha, liaison officer of the Northern Mindanao Medical Center, reported the decline of blood supply in the region in recent months. Rocha said admissions related to COVID-19 are a primary factor in the decline of blood supply in Northern Mindanao. He said this was the reason that the Philippine Red Cross has been holding blood donation drives and constantly calling on the public to donate blood. Rocha said at the NMMC alone, the current blood supply is no longer sufficient for emergency cases. Rocha assured that blood donors are safe from possible infection because the hospital's bloodletting facility is located far from where COVID-19 patients are being housed. Workers are allowed to find alternative work while they are on floating status without having to lose their jobs with their present employers. The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, issued a department order saying employees under floating status will not lose their jobs if they were able to find alternative work unless they voluntarily resign. The department order allowed the extension of the floating status of workers for another 6 months during the pandemic. Labor Undersecretary Benjo Benavides, meanwhile, said labor groups are free to question the legality of the order. He said they don't want to see employees lose their employment on the sole ground that the 6 months floating status has already lapsed. A lawmaker is proposing to charge taxes on electronic cockfighting and other legally operated online betting activities to raise more revenues for the government's COVID-19 response. Albay Representative Joey Salceda filed House Bill number 7919, which proposes to impose a tax regime on off-site betting activities. Under the bill, the proposed tax shall be 5% of gross revenues derived from off-site betting activities on locally licensed games. The bill shall also empower the Bureau of Internal Revenue, or BIR, to accredit and inspect totalizators and other gambling devices to establish transparency and accountability in the collection, consolidation, and recording of wagers. Salceda said the national government should benefit from locally licensed games. It needs funds to fight COVID-19. He argued that without a national government share and without national government regulations, it's a free-for-all at the local level. The Department of the Interior and Local Government on Wednesday announced that nationwide road clearing operations would resume on November 16. DILG spokesperson Jonathan Malaya said the local government units were given until January 15, 2021 to clear roads within their jurisdiction of any obstruction. The measure is suspended in areas under Enhanced Community Quarantine ECQ or Modified ECQ. Parked ambulance and public emergency vehicles, checkpoints, and temporary obstructions caused by the establishment of bike lanes are exempted from being removed or apprehended. Structures for obstructions erected for locally stranded individuals must also be removed upon their return to their intended LGU destination. Banning motorized pedicabs and tricycles on national roads and highways must be implemented by the LGUs. In a statement, Interior Secretary Eduardo Año said the measure comes after the flattening of the COVID-19 curve and the easing of quarantine classifications. The Department of Trade and Industry soft-launched on Wednesday the Make It Happen in the Philippines campaign to invite foreign investors to invest in the Philippines. DTI Secretary Ramon Lopez initially launched the campaign to investors from Australia and New Zealand. Under the campaign, the DTI highlights 5 priority sectors such as electronics, automotive, aerospace, copper and information technology, and business process management. Lopez urged firms from Australia and New Zealand to look into opportunities in the country with its huge domestic market and access to the ASEAN market of 600 million people. The trade chief also highlighted the young and tech-savvy workforce in the Philippines, as well as its stable wage rates. The DTI will formally launch the Make It Happen in the Philippines campaign next month. Up next, no sale policy is up in Bicol region, and MINDA Tienda will hold a 2-day event in Baguio City. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
Anti-communist groups on Wednesday held simultaneous candle-lighting vigils as they protested atrocities by the CPP-NPA NDF and its allies. The League of Parents in the Philippines, Liga Independencia Pilipinas, League of Youth for Peace Advancement, Coalition for Peace, and Hands Off Our Children offered prayers for the souls of those who were killed by communist terrorist groups. The groups held their vigils at 3 historical places in Manila: Plaza Miranda, Mendiola Arc, and Nicanorea Street, formerly known as Moraita. During the vigil, groups denounced the killing of innocent people during the Plaza Miranda bombing and Mendiola massacre. Parents of minors who reportedly joined the communist terrorist movement also demanded the CPP-NPA NDF and its legal fronts to stop exploiting the youth for political interest. The anti-communist group said they will always stand their ground and expose the recruitment schemes done by militant organizations. National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon Jr. expressed support for 2 government officials accused of red-tagging activist groups. Esperon said he supports Southern Luzon Command Chief Antonio Parlade and Communications Undersecretary Lorraine Badoy as they claim that some groups were acting as legal fronts of the Communist Party of the Philippines New People's Army. Among the groups Esperon cited for having ties with the CPP-NPA were the Alliance of Concerned Teachers, Migrante, League of Filipino Students, Anak Bayan, Kabataan Party List, Gabriela, and College Editors Guild of the Philippines. Esperon also claimed that the Makabayan bloc recruits members to strengthen the underground organizations. Meanwhile, he praised both Parlade and Badoy for educating the public about the existence of groups acting as CPP-NPA's legal fronts. The Department of Agriculture is allotting a 795 million peso quick response fund to farmers whose farms were devastated by Typhoon Quinta. The DA reported 705.8 million pesos in damage and losses in agri-fisheries due to the typhoon in Ilocos Region, Calabarzon, Bicol Region, Western Visayas, and Zamboanga Peninsula. Affected commodities include rice, corn, high-value crops, fisheries, livestock, irrigation, and agri-facilities. Aside from the QRF, other assistance available to affected farmers are the Survival and Recovery Loan Program of the Agriculture Credit Policy Council and the indemnification funds from Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation. Over 30,000 bags of rice seeds, 8,000 bags of corn seeds, and nearly 1,800 kilograms of assorted vegetables are also up for distribution to the affected farmers. Meanwhile, the no-sale policy is in effect in the entire Bicol region effective early this morning. The Bicol Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, or DRRMC, said the move is in preparation for another typhoon that may hit the region in the coming days. According to Pag-asa, the weather disturbance intensifies into a severe tropical storm while moving westward. It will be called Typhoon Rolly when it enters the Philippine area of responsibility. It is currently moving towards eastern sections of central and southern Luzon and may bring heavy rains over those areas starting tomorrow or this weekend. After the successful MINDA Tienda sa Manila last week, the Mindanao Development Authority and the city of Baguio have agreed to hold another leg of the event on November 14 to 15. Sea products, including dried fish, would be brought to the MINDA Tienda sa Cordillera with the support of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Government. Mindanao's meat products, including the famous beef from pineapple-fed cows, would also be showcased during the event, along with durian, marang, mangosteen, lanzones, and pomelo. MINDA Chief Secretary Emmanuel Piñol said the arrangements for the event will make it easier for Mindanao farmers, fishermen, and producers to sell their products. He said more Luzon cities and provinces have expressed interest in hosting the MINDA Tienda in their areas. This would be MINDA's third collaboration with Baguio after the two MINDA fruit festivals held in the city last year. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. President Duterte gave a go signal to investigate allegations against Philippine ambassador to Brazil, Marichu Mauro. Returning OFWs are assured of getting tested in the country. The Justice Department prioritizes 5 agencies on corruption probe. And MINDA Tienda will hold a 2-day event in Baguio City. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.